I've been doing entrepreneurship for the past 10 years. The first 5 years were failures in my book. And I think the main reason why they didn't work was because I did not spend enough time thinking about whether or not they were good ideas. So, what is a good idea? First of all, it depends on what you're optimizing for. Why are you starting a business? What do you want to achieve? If you want to achieve a few $1,000s a month in mostly passive income and you want to live a nice lifestyle, then there are some ideas that would be considered good ideas for that goal, and there are others that would be considered bad ideas. If you want to build a gigantic amount of wealth and build a $100 million or $1 billion business because you just want to, or because you have an ambition or a goal or a dream, then many business ideas that a lot of people might think of as good business ideas would actually be not good ideas for you. So it very much depends on what is your goal. Your goal would then define what would a good idea be and what would a bad idea be. The purpose of this video, though, is going to be talking about and tackling the building massive or big businesses, building a business that would end up being the winner in that space by a far margin, a big margin. This is for the billion-dollar idea. This is for people who want to build massive amounts of wealth. And I think it's actually also for everyone, because this same concept or the same principles on how to pick a business idea or how to pick one out of 100 business ideas, I think can be applied on many other disciplines. And I think also most people should listen to this, because sometimes it might take just as much effort to build a small business than compared to how much effort it would take to build a massive or $100 million business. The example I use here is, imagine you have $1 million to invest. And this is all the money you have in the world, and you can only invest it in one place. You can only make one investment. And you have 100 ideas that you can pick from. How much would you think about which one of these 100 ideas should you pick? One of those ideas, or maybe 10 of those ideas, would end up taking your $1 million to zero. They're not good investments. And maybe 20 or 30 of those business ideas might get you a 20% or a 10% or potentially 5% return, whether it's annualized or total in 10 years. And there's one of those 100 ideas that would actually generate 100 million for that $1 million investment. Wouldn't you like to pick that one instead of the other 99 ones that would be either bad or mediocre investments? I don't think anyone would say no. Like, everyone would like to find out what is that one investment from those 100 that would get me the most success, the most happiness, the most whatever it is that you're optimizing for. And that's life. We always have those 100 options, and we should strive to find the option out of those 100 that would generate or yield the most success, regardless of what the metric of defining success is. Most people don't think that way, especially when it comes to their time. So most people don't really spend a lot of time thinking about how to invest their time, and they think of their time as this cheap, infinite resource where they don't have to over-optimize, over-analyze on how to invest that or how to spend that resource. What I mean here is, when you're about to embark on a new journey, let's say you had just left a role and you're entering into, or you want to get into a new role, you want to, start a new company or join a new company and so on. Most people wouldn't spend enough time in reflecting on and thinking about the opportunities, the 100 ideas, before they pick the next one, before they jump into the next one. Most people would just think of a few ideas or, wait for inspiration to happen and emotionally pick the one that they like the most or the one that sounds nicer. And that means that they're often guided by their ego or guided by their subconscious on whatever sounds cooler. And that's just very limiting. Like, that's probably not a great way to go about picking that idea, because you're leaving a lot of money on the table. You're leaving a lot of potential success on the table, even if what you're exploring here is let's say what you're optimizing for is happiness, not money. What if there's one idea that would give you the most happiness out of those 100? And reality is you can never find out for sure which one would give you the most happiness or success, but you can research, you can study, you can experiment and get more of an informed opinion than if you wouldn't do these things. So this vlog is to talk about that. And once again, the first 5 years of entrepreneurship for me was me building businesses that I just thought were cool or I just stumbled upon. And my main lesson from those 5 years, like by the end of those 5 years, I was thinking that if I had put this much effort into a different business or a different market, then I would have had much more success. So I took it upon myself to not jump into my next business or my next idea without thinking deeply about it, without exploring what are the options, what are the 100 ideas that I could potentially do, and without testing or analyzing or researching or talking to people who might know more about these ideas than I do. So I spent about a year in between leaving my last startup and starting the next one, just exploring, thinking, testing, and learning about different industries and different markets, and even launching a few of these ideas just to get quick feedback, to test them out, and to see if people are interested in them or not. There are a few concepts that I have written down here, or like lessons, or I don't know what to call them. Maybe sometimes they're frameworks or mental models. I'll start with this one, just to highlight more and more how important it is to do this exercise. I learned this, I think, from one of the Silicon Valley, early VCs. It might have been Andreessen Horowitz or Paul Graham, or one of the two. They said something like, A founder, C market, market wins. C founder, A market, market wins. What that means basically is it doesn't matter how much effort you put into something as much as it matters how much the market wants it. In other words, how good of an idea it is. If you kill it in a particular idea or domain, but then the market just doesn't want that product that you're building, then you're destined to not see a lot of success. Okay, so the first one is, don't fall in love. It's not about you, it's about the customer. A lot of people tend to fall in love with their business idea too soon, may I add. And they then your mind starts telling you stories about how it's a great idea, if only I can do this, if only I can do that, then it would work. And that's an amazing attribute of being a visionary founder. You need to be a bit delusional. Nobody's going to believe in something except for you at the beginning. But then you also need to be realistic. Both need to exist at the same time. But it's one of the sins of a newbie in building businesses, and it happened to me, and it happened to a lot of people. I think it happens to everyone. is that we fall in love with our ideas too soon, and we associate our own self-worth with such idea. So we start not accepting that idea that it might not be a good idea, and we start just trying to come up with stories and narratives in order to justify how it's a good idea or make it work in our mind somehow. And that's why I think business is a mental sport, is because our ego is designed to tell us that our opinions are valuable and our ideas are good, and all sorts of good narratives and good things that we want to believe about ourselves. But sometimes your ideas are not great, and your opinions and insights about the market are not particularly accurate or useful. It's good to remember that business is a sport of solving customer problems. So if you want to win in the sport of business, then you need to obsess over the customer, not over the idea. And if the customer tells you, hey, this idea is nice, but I actually kind of want something else, then you pivot the idea. Then you should be open to changing course and focusing on what the customer wants and giving them what they want. So don't fall in love with your idea. It's not about you, it's about the customer. It's about what the customer wants. It doesn't matter if you think it's a good idea. It doesn't matter if you love it. What matters is, are there customers in the market that would love it and want to pay you for it? Are you actually solving a problem for them? And it's hard to find such customers. They might exist and you just haven't found them yet. But you need to be realistic with yourself, and if you realize that customers just don't want the solution that I built, then move on and don't fall in love and prolong the journey for way longer than you need to. Okay, so how do I generate ideas, and then how do I pick the best idea out of them? Generating ideas might need also kind of like a vlog on its own, but a quick kind of framework or model. The way I think of this is there are two ways to innovate, two methods for innovation. And it's kind of like a spectrum. Most people do something in between. But on one end of the spectrum, one extreme of innovation is research and analysis. That's how most people do their innovation. And maybe I'm using the word innovation here. There might be better words, but like most people find ideas from things around them. So they research and analyze, what problems exist in retail, or what problems exist in the food. So I want to eat, I'm an individual. What problems are there with this type of experience? They might even look at reports. They might look at research papers that talk about certain markets and certain industries. They might research by interviewing customers and understanding what issues they have. So that's one way. That's on one end of the spectrum. It's the research and analysis. And that's what most people do, actually, just because there's a baseline, there's a starting point, and it might seem easier. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's the other method, which is envision and invent. And that's where you don't necessarily start from a baseline or from a starting point. You start from a question, which is, if I had a magic wand and I could have any type of food experience, what would that look like? Well, probably, I'd want to just say what I want to eat and it shows up in front of me in a minute. And that's where you envision and invent, and then you try to reverse engineer from that. So these are two methods or two models for brainstorming and finding ideas. A lot of people say find out what problems are there around you, like what problems do you have, what problems do you face yourself, and then think of like a potential solution for them, or if there was a solution for them, would you use that solution? Would you pay for it? I think that's not a bad way to do it, but sometimes it could be deceiving, because if you're a young person who's trying to build a business and you don't have a lot of money yourself, then you're probably not going to come up with the best business ideas, because you might think, oh, it would be cool if I have this, but then would you really pay for this? Or thought of in a different way or said in a different way, ideally you want to build a business where there's already money going to that area or to that problem. You don't want to solve a problem and build an amazing innovation that nobody wants or nobody can afford, and so on. Yeah, that would be another way to look at it. Okay, so you have your list, you have your 100 ideas. How do you pick which one is the best idea, or which one can get you to your goal in the fastest way possible with the least effort possible? You need to compare each idea and kind of score them against each other. And you like, usually the very simple model is, first of all, you want to understand how big that problem is. And so imagine this: you have a Google sheet or an Excel sheet with like 100 ideas, and then you have a few columns. The first column is market size, which is a different way of saying how big is that problem. And you can calculate this yourself in a rough calculation that you could do very quickly. You don't have to do anything fancy. And what you want to do here is basically take the number of people that have this problem and multiply it by, say, the amount of dollars that you think each customer would pay to have that problem solved in a particular geography. So let's say you want to say, okay, I want to create this piece of software for electricians in Dubai. So you could do a quick research and find out how many electricians or service companies exist in Dubai that offer such electrician services, and then you want to estimate some number of dollars that they would be willing to pay for that problem or for that solution or for that piece of software, and multiply those two together. And if you realize, well, there's 10,000 electricians in Dubai, and I think they'd be willing to pay $100 because using this piece of software is going to save them $1,000. So it's very easy for them to agree to pay $100 for. Then 100 by 10,000, then you find that this is $1 million opportunity. And that could be $1 million per month or per year, whatever it is, but you just need to put that number there and then go to the next idea and compare it when it comes to market size. Another thing you need to basically add to that scorecard is the effort it would take, whether it's time or capital that you would need to execute on this business or on this idea. Is this something you can build yourself? Is this something that is easy to build? Is this something that has been built before? You could basically break down the cost and reward. It's basically effort to reward ratio that you want to look at eventually. It's not going to be a perfect number, but you could break down the opportunity element to maybe 3 or 4 or 5 different metrics, and you could do the same for cost. I would recommend not doing more than 3 metrics in total. So maybe market size, ease or difficulty of execution, and maybe a third one could be capital needed to launch this. Once you have those 3 kind of elements, you want to also compare this to your original goal. So what are you optimizing for? And if you're optimizing for building a $100 million business, then software electrician idea in Dubai is not going to work. It's not for you. That might be great for a lifestyle business if those numbers I mentioned are close to accurate. But if you want to build a $100 million business, then it's not for you. Yeah, so that would be how I would do it. Now, also, that's kind of like step one. There's no way you really find out what the market size is and if customers want to buy it or not. At this stage, this is all theory. At this stage, this is all kind of like, um, yeah, it's just on paper. The next step would be for you to test this. And the question becomes, okay, how can I test this? How would I be able to test whether or not the electricians in Dubai are going to, pay me for my piece of software? Let's say that's a business I want to go after. Well, the best way to do that uh, uh, is to actually test the idea, is to actually go and talk to electricians, is to actually go and potentially, ideally, build some version of the software or the product, or create a video that explains to them how it's going to work, and go and call them, go and meet them, and go and offer them free trials, and just tell them, would you be interested if I build this? Would you buy it? And if they say yes, what would be amazing as well is to tell them, well, would you be willing to pay for it in advance? And if you pay me like now, then you'd get like a 70% or a 50% discount or whatever it is. And if they say yes, take my money, then all of these are just very positive signs that are telling you that these people actually genuinely want that product, and they're not just saying so because you're asking them, because it could be very deceiving. What people say and what people do are two different things. So you want to test as much as possible. You want to not take what people say at face value and assume for it to be true, because most of the time it's not. Not to say that people lie, but if you're going to ask someone, would you buy this? They're going to want to be nice to you, and they most likely would tell you, yeah, I probably would buy it. But then, would they actually buy it is a different story. So the point here is, step number one is do this on paper, but step number two is to go and test. And testing takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. So what you want to do is to go from 100 ideas to maybe 5 to 10 ideas on paper, and then you want to take each one of those ideas and you want to go and test them on, like, basically in real life on actual businesses. And when you get to that step, then you're going to start getting a lot more information. You're going to get a lot more data. You're going to understand a lot more about whether that's an actual problem, whether that's actually a good idea, whether the customer is actually interested in paying for it, how much would they be willing to pay for it. Because you might assume 100, but they might tell you, if this is priced at $10, I'll pay now, but $100, there's no way I'm going to buy it. All of this would be very useful to guide you on the decision of whether or not you should go after an idea and really invest all your time and energy and effort into it. So you want to test fast. You want to get information as fast as possible, so you don't end up investing more time than necessary exploring a concept that people might actually not want. All right, so let's wrap up this vlog here. I realize that this may be very generic advice, where you might be thinking, okay, like this sounds good, but how do I test? How can I brainstorm? Tell me more about that. If you like this, if you think it's useful, if you do have some of these questions, maybe let me know, leave them in the comments. I would like to talk about all these different things. My goal from this is to just talk about all the lessons that I've learned through entrepreneurship over the past 10 years, because I think if 10 years ago this would have been super useful for me to listen to. This one was particularly focused on how to find the right idea, how to pick the right idea out of like 100 that might be in front of you. Step number one is realize that you actually have 100 ideas. Most people don't even think about that. So don't just start with the first idea that comes to mind. Don't fall in love too soon. Realize that you have 100 ideas, and that one of them is going to make you all the money and success and wealth and happiness in the world, and the 99 other ones are not going to, or they're not going to do as well. So realize you have 100 ideas and be intentional about finding the best one. Number two, go and explore those ideas, or just brainstorm what are potentially those 100 ideas. And for a certain period of time, be in that curiosity mode where you're learning about, first of all, problems that you face yourself, but also problems that other people face. Go and talk to people. Go and understand what problems they have, what problems are not solved for them through existing options and solutions, and add more and more ideas to that list. Number 3 is, on paper, start to analyze those opportunities in terms of market size, so how many people have them. If you're optimizing to win in the sport of business, then you need to solve big problems that a lot of people have. So if you're solving a $100 problem for 1,000 people, you have a $100,000 business. If you're solving a $1,000 problem for 1,000,000 people, then you have a $1 billion business. So picking the right idea, again, is going to influence the results a lot. Like, no amount of effort that you can put can change that. Like, if you pick a small problem that not a lot of people have, you will not build a big business. So yeah, anyway, and then the last step, I forgot the numbering, is to test the top ideas that you end up shortlisting from that long list of ideas and gain information, and then from that end up deciding what is the one you're going to end up doubling down on and do for the rest of your life, or do for the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. Because that's the maybe last thought I'll leave you with. For any business to work, you need 5 years. Maybe you need more, but you need a minimum of 5 years for it to work. And if you want to build big businesses, or you want to build successful businesses, then I'm talking about 5 years full time. So if you're going to spend 5 years working on something, might as well pick something that will yield amazing results versus all the other ideas that may not. I said this is the last thing, but I just remembered one more. One of the factors you can add to the criteria list of which idea to pick is, how much do you like or do you love the industry or field that this idea is in. You don't have to love it. You don't have to be a customer of it. But if you do love it, and potentially if you are a customer of it, then you will have one more piece of unfair advantage that would make you stand out or be able to build a better product or do it for longer, because business can get really hard. And if you're enjoying what you're doing, if you love the area or the industry or the community around the product or business you're building, then that might give you a lot more fuel than anyone else, and that might allow you to eventually excel and build a better business than anyone else around you is able to build in the same field, or to solve the same problem. That's it for today. This was longer than expected. I hope it was useful. Maybe my thoughts were not super structured. I'm still experimenting with whether or not to structure my thoughts or to kind of go free flow. Today was a mix of both. I had maybe 5 or 6 bullet points to talk about. Let me know how you find it. I hope you find it useful. Peace.